me what out of the 12 chapters, or maybe something in the what somebody had something about the intro that they liked. Just give us an excerpt or a chapter you loved, and then I'll go to Rianne next. But just take some time, and I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay. First of all, Rick, don't stop plugging it. This is a really powerful book, and people need to know about it and read it.
Thank you.
So you're very welcome.
I'm pretty shameless, but thank you.
Yeah. Well, I liked chapter 11, Be a Power Releaser.
Yeah.
And in particular, your dad, when you said, my dad was not a perfect man, sometimes he lowered the proverbial hammer on us, but we respected him. And then you went on to talk about how he shared power. Power and influence was shared with the others. Grants of authority, you said. And I like that because it pointed out that this isn't about being nice. It's about being likable. And there's a big difference between those two. And your dad obviously knew how to balance those, right? He would be likable. He would include you in the power. He would grant you that power. And at the same time, he held you accountable. Yeah, I really love that combination.
Ron, and I appreciate you picking up that piece. Every chapter had different challenges, and I wanted to get the research right, and I didn't want to be too anecdotal. And so those of you that have ever used Dr. Ron Young as an executive coach, one of the things I learned from him early on, somewhere around 2006, as my business partner, and him basically taking me under his wing, man, I would hear him in a corporate setting. And man, he would throw a velvet covered brick. I mean, so he would just like hit the client in the head about reality. And then when they got out, they had a big group hug. I mean, what he's talking about here, Ron's great at it. And that's what I was trying to convey, Ron, is that, to be nice is not necessarily going to get us anywhere. I mean, we should be nice, but we should be likable and openly honest and transparent with people. Anything else there? There's so much I could probably ask you. Tell me anything else that may have grabbed you with the book.
I love the way it was so well organized and filled with insights, and it was very applicable, right? And it reminded me of things that I had forgotten, and it pointed out some areas that I needed to grow in. So it wasn't just a nice feel-good book about being likable. It was a very powerful, inspiring, and a guide to putting things into practice.
Well, I appreciate that. So by the way, when people are talking, I'm going to open it up here in a minute so we can talk cross videos. But Ron, what would be something you would tell a coaching client, for instance, that they might consider applying that you picked up on the book? I mean, you coach all the time. So, I mean, what would be something that you would practically advise them to do using the concepts in the book?
The whole concept of likability and what that looks like and how you roll it out, that's really core to a lot of the work I do with my coaching clients. So depending on what their particular needs are, I would select a different chapter that's most applicable to them, and help them to understand the balance of it, the application of it, to understand what it is and what it is not. I really like the way that you laid that out and how practical it is in so many ways.
Well, I appreciate it, and stand by if you can. I'm going to go to Rianne next. Rianne Ring again, and if you would like to, you could take 30 seconds and tell people how you define yourself. I'm trying to define you here as I know you, and what would you say? And then I'd love to hear your excerpt from the book.
Describing anything I do, I'm an enigma. I'm basically an artist. It took me a while to figure out what to call myself, Rick, because that encompasses everything. I'm truly an artist, photographer, working with, having my own business for years, and more than one business. I've had 6 startup businesses. 1 or 2 failed, some have flown. One I'm working in now is booming. And it's been, I've bought and sold. It's just been an interesting experience. But when I started reading through the outline of your book immediately before delving in, especially the workbook, I appreciate, first of all, that you have a workbook that accompanies this. because it breaks it down into practical steps. Because basically what you're describing is the cool factor. And it's very difficult to break down cool for some people. Some people, it's because they have an edge on how they work their business. Some of it is how they run a ministry. You know, you and I worked with some very dynamic people in the past in ministry, but that didn't mean that they were likable, right? And then we also had people that were likable that didn't have thriving ministries or businesses, but there was something about them that gave them a richness and a depth. I think when you try to combine that, like you said, that's the secret sauce for influential leadership. I think my favorite part, and this is just because I am part sanguine and part choleric. There's a war going on.
Yeah, Ron can help you, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sanguine and choleric. It's in there. It's in there. I am all business, but I like to have fun doing it. I think the part I like most, Rick, that you put to break it down is that you were saying be fun. The one thing about that, though, is that you can't lose your edge on still being authoritative. So when I looked at over your blog titles, I was cracking up. How not to be a jerk.
Yeah, podcast. That was a fun podcast.
Yeah, you know it is, but you have to have a desire to not be a jerk. You have to be a desire to want to be liked. And not everybody appreciates someone fun because they may not take you seriously. But what I appreciate is that fun, it takes you a while to prove yourself. But once you pulled it out, like I had to prove myself in this area that I'm working in now. I mean, this is no joke what they've handed me. It's major. I've worked with them for 16, 17 years, but they like me because I'm the Christmas lady. But they also know I've worked television and I've got a magazine and got other things going on. But I had this short window of time that I had to do a miraculous makeover in like 3 days. And we pulled it off. And I'm telling you, it was a hit with the millennials. I'm just saying, the marketing group liked it most. And because I felt like they could identify with me and I could identify with them. That was the key. But if you want to reach, especially the younger generation, just being honest, you have to be fun. There has to be something that you pull out that's unique and different. So I think I appreciated the lighter side of some of the things that you said. And I will say, honestly, truly, because I worked under your leadership for years at church. We worked on staff together. I was in choir with you. I about flipped when Debbie called me and said I got that lead role in It's a Wonderful Life. I'm like, are you kidding me? I thought I was auditioning for this little part. I had no idea.
That's my enterprise thinking. I'm the executive producer.
Let me tell you, it about killed me. When she called, she said, well, Rick wants you to do the lead. And I said, a soprano? I'm an alto. He must have had some kind of confidence that I could pull this off. Now, never mind the fact I had to have what do you call it? A prednisone shot. Everyone on because I'd blown my vocal cords. But I think one of my favorite things is because I've known Rick for so long. I've seen all aspects of everything he's written about. But even when he had an agenda where we had to get something major done, not just a dinner theater with 6, 7 performances a week, or we were going down and doing a huge pastors conference down in New Orleans. You know, we remember that big trip we took. Rick was always, he was fun. He was a fun man. And we enjoyed as a choir the joy that we had with him, but we knew that we had to get down to business. So there was always that edge of seriousness. He really tolerated us. We were so bad sometimes. He was very tolerant. But some of the sweetest memories, and we call them the glory days, is when we were under leadership. And so when I saw him out with this book, I said, well, that explains it. I mean, it's just, he's defining his own personality, basically.
Well,
But
Rian, what I would love for you to do because you work across so many sectors, I mean, television, media, photography, I mean, all of these different mediums. Why do you think that being fun, if you adopt it as a life goal with all the boundaries you've talked about, and I tried to describe them in that chapter, and I did a lot of research psychologically in that chapter. Why do you think, how do you see it work for you to gain influence in your work?
Okay, first of all, you know, you work with a lot of people that don't have a sense of humor, and some do. And if you can influence someone to laugh, we all know that comedians can tell you anything once they've gotten you to laugh. Once they get you feeling good about yourself, There is something about that thing where you can make someone feel giddy and lighter in their day. And I don't want to be trite about that, but I often look at some of the things that Jesus said in the Bible, and it cracks me up because he had to have a little curve in the smile. Get that behind me, Satan, when he was talking to Peter, he was serious, but at the same time, he put him in his place, and there was only Jesus could have thrown it like that. He's throwing shade at him, but the key I have found with anything is that if you can turn it around and get people to laugh, feel confident about themselves, feel confident about what they're doing, and teach them not to take things so seriously when they're so heavy, because right now in this world, what we've got now, I haven't seen a lot of smiling and laughing lately. I think practically speaking, like in photography, I have a lot of people that get nervous in front of the camera. I am the biggest clown they will ever work with, but my whole goal is to make them look like $1,000,000. When they get that edited picture, it better look banging. So I make sure I get them to relax. By the middle to the end of that photo shoot, they are so relaxed. And I've had people say, I have never felt comfortable in front of the camera, or they'll have like a Bell's palsy or something that I won't even see. And somehow we've been able to pull off some sort of way that they make a facial gesture, and we're able to pull off the best look they've ever had in a picture, which is a huge honor to me. I don't even know how self-conscious they are until they tell me. And then in my industry for Christmas, it's easy to be fun, but one thing I have to be careful with my crew, it is so stressful doing what we're doing. And Rick, you can identify with what your kids are doing. The stress factor is off the charts. So in order to look like the fun Christmas lady and all the visual arts that I do, I have to keep it light. I have to make sure that bottom line, when they come in the next day, they need to think that the elves were here overnight. They don't need to know that we cracked something, broke something, that I had to run out in the middle of the night, fix it, and etc. All they need to know is that when they come in, they're going to laugh, smile, and it's going to be awesome, because especially the price tag they're paying. I want to make sure they love it. The whole idea is to get big people to act like big kids at Christmas for me. But my agenda too is to really build a serious business with that, not just based on the fun factor. They're trying to please a lot of tenants and buildings that are paying millions and millions to be on that property. And I know the pressure they've got. So my whole goal is to take the pressure off of the management that hired me, so that they don't even have to think twice. That if they hand me a project, they know it's going to go. It doesn't always happen that way, but I want them to feel like I'm going to do everything imaginable. But bottom line, I try to create the fun factor at the end, because something about getting people to have a little bit more of an endorphin surge puts you in a position that if there is an issue, you have a little more forgiveness, because things will happen.
Wow, that is so good. If you can you stay on a minute? If you don't, it's no big deal. Can you stay on a second or you need to hop off?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. So, hey, Ron, I'm going to go to Gary next. Ron, any comments about endorphins and brain science from what Rianne just? I was going to say crazy, Rianne, but that's not good. Ron, I would love to get in your head just real quickly about that. What she's talking about being fun as a likability factor for influence. You got a comment there?
I do. When you spoke about the endorphins, and the laughter and the fun, that combines so well with telling a person difficult truth, and packaging it in a way that says, you know what, I care about you, and then finding a fun way to put it, kind of gets the message through more effectively. So I've got these endorphins going, and then you say the hard truth, and it kind of bounces out and gives them ears to hear.
Wow, that's so good. I never thought I would pair you two together. This is wonderful. Hey, Gary, I would love, Gary's just coming off some surgeries, looking great. Tell me your favorite part, if you had one. If you don't, I'm gonna mute you. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Well, I had the pleasure of reading this book as I was recovering from surgery, and gave me something to do. But I want to begin with a criticism, if you don't mind, because I mean, you're real. You understand that your book's not perfect. You're still working on the perfect book. The criticism I have is that it's 20 years too late for me. Not that it's too late, but I could have sure used this material 20 years ago.
I know. I didn't know where you were going. I had my finger right on the mute button. Go ahead, brother.
In the church world, and I appreciate the background that Rianne has with you in your church world. Rick was a wild man in seminary, y'all. He was never fingered as the culprit of some of the shenanigans that went on there, but he was not far, lurking in the shadows somewhere behind every incident of fame at New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. But in the church,
but keep going.
Yeah, in the church world, we're just now getting the benefit of some of the resources that the secular and corporate and world has had for a number of years. I mean, we had the leadership conferences by Maxwell, and we understood that everything rises and falls on leadership, but knowing how to intentionally set our corporation, if you will, up for success, and the people who work in the corporation to go on in successfulness was really kind of a hit and miss chance thing. It was either personality driven or sometimes it was vision oriented, but it was up to the personality to sell that vision. And some of our convention leadership, our DMs and state consultants were trained in mediation and that sort of thing. But, it's really like a first responder showing up to a crash scene. It's a cleanup on aisle 7 sort of affair at that point. But the thing that I think Trove and books like this bring to us, and I've read through it the first time with a lot of regret, as I saw areas that, gosh, as a leader, I could have been better, and the outcomes would have been completely different. But I'm reading through it as a counselor now, as one who's finding things to be able to leverage in people's understanding, to help them see doors of opportunity, doors of that can fix and repair circumstances before they ever happen. And if there were so many parts of the book that were my favorite. I loved the chapter 4 being authentic, and chapter 5 of being fair. But when you're a growing organization, a lot of times you hit growth challenges that come because of you're not built structurally, not prepared structurally to head off some of the issues that come. My favorite chapter, I think, was chapter 6, being an aligner. And the reason I like that is because of the point you made about connection, and how everyone wants to know and wants to feel connected. And you asked me to share a highlight or segment. I love the part where you say, when it comes to one-on-one interactions, those who help others align to their purpose find strong connections. Likability comes via connection. This is the heroic part of aligning people. And you go on to say, as a leader, if you are conscious that people love connection, you will help them align to their true purpose. Connection is the core idea to true alignment. Connection is the secret ingredient to the secret sauce of influence. I couldn't agree more. I was listening to an interview with the son of one of my neighbor, a man by the name of Richard McSpadden, who was the squad commander and the #1 pilot for the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. And here these men are flying these massive machines at twice the speed of sound. Sometimes they're so closely aligned, they're 6 feet apart, socially distanced, right? And 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 Richard said the key to that is that only one man is looking forward. The rest are looking at him.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
importance of the trust relationship in the team comes through connection. And the guy who was interviewing, him, Rick, the guy who was interviewing him asked him a question. He said, what was it like to manage all of these personalities? And he said this. He said, you lead people and manage things.
Oh, wow. Good, man.
And that's so rich, because if you get that swapped, if you go to managing people, then there's going to be a wreck. And I experienced some of that wreck.
You know, Gary's got, I mean, I could stay on with all of you for the whole hour, and I'll probably have to redo this because it's so good today. All of them have been good. But Gary, I love something. I mean, I remember writing it, but you know, so in your world, no, so hey, Ron, so Gary is a Christian counselor. You guys got to get together. He's just got a great thing going. Gary loves people. Gary loves me in spite of my stuff. I mean, I have some stuff, man. I appreciate that.
I love you because of your stuff, man.
Thank you. So talk about help me understand, and then the viewers and listeners later all of this audio will be used in the podcast, so you'll all have your own podcast. But Gary, this power of connection, man, does not our world not need it now more than I've ever experienced? Talk about that just a little bit before I pitch it over to Chris.
We know we live in a technologically advanced day that we have the ability to be so connected with so many people. And yet in my counseling experience, I've never experienced a period of time when people are more disconnected than right now.
Wow.
It's like we're living parallel lives, and at the point of where we connect is usually the point of some conflict, and we're forcing people into categories, and it's just we're so discombobulated and disconnected from one another that
I appreciate you picking that part out. That just, you know, I never know. The fact that you picked that particular couple of sentences out, I think it's important in my remembering of writing it. I really appreciate that. I think it's true for all of us extroverts on right now, but it's also true for introverts that need somebody to find them and connect with them.
Yeah,
so I talk about that in my coaching and in my speaking as well. Sometimes you just got to walk into people's lives and just like get them. You got to get them in. You can't. They don't know how to do that. And I really appreciate you talking about connection. I believe it will change the world. So I'm gonna try to come back to everybody. So Chris, I had to ask Chris maybe to play his guitar, but I forgot to ask him to bring it into his office. I know he's in his office, but this boy can play some guitar. I'm telling you. I mean, studio stuff. So Chris, what was your favorite part of the book?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Yeah, you might want to keep your finger on that mute button, by the way.
I've got it right here.
I was going to kick this off by saying, you know, how odd it is that you would write a book on likability, because I don't even really like you that much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, you and I've been friends for almost 40 years now, and it's kind of cool to have a lifelong relationship with somebody. My favorite part of the book was in chapter 3 when it talks about being an encourager, right? And maybe the part of the reason for that is that maybe my primary spiritual gift is encouragement, and I love encouraging others. You know, when I'm in that role of encouragement, it is it's effortless, and it has such great rewards, which is kind of the way we all function within our giftedness, right? When we're doing it, it's like effortless, but it has unbelievable productivity. So you have some power statements within your chapter 3 of being an encourager. And one of your power statements that I really liked was, quote, "The centerpiece of encouragement is the courage to risk transparency," end quote. And transparency is a big piece of this, right? So we kind of started off this conversation laughing and joking and kind of talking about ourselves. You know, you talked about how screwed up you are, right? Well, you know what? The truth is we're all screwed up. And the quicker we get that out on the table, the better life is and the better the conversation is. And in fact, in the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, it talks about, you know, the hierarchy of team building, and the bottom level there is trust.
Right.
And one of the exercises says if trust is not there with your team, you need to step back and get transparent and vulnerable again until you build that trust, and then you can start building on top of it again. In the business that I'm in, I have to build trust quickly because I'm helping entrepreneurs research and evaluate franchises to purchase. So I have to get over the trust bar really fast. And one of the ways I do it is through transparency. And I try to be not cheesy with it, right? But try to be, talk about my past, talk about my life, maybe talk about my current struggles. Sometime this morning I ended up talking about the death of my wife from 17 years ago for some odd reason. It was a way to connect with this person, got over that trust bar really fast. Then we could start talking about franchises, and I had built that relationship. So I intentionally try to encourage others, and I do it through transparency. And it's kind of the natural way I'm wired, the natural way I'm bent.
Yeah.
And likability seems to almost be maybe a side effect of that transparency. What if I'm transparent about myself and they don't like me? I mean, I struggle with that even today. I'm like, oh, that's that vulnerability piece, right? You have to be able to place it out there on the table and say, okay, they may not ever want to talk to me again. And I guess that's okay because, the purpose is not to be liked.
I love the way you verbalize that, Chris. And, when I just look at the screen here, man, all of you have encouraged me somewhere in my life, and hopefully maybe I have encouraged you. But Chris, you're dead on. I mean, Chris, I've spent enough time with him to know, man, we'll be like having a business lunch, and he is like airing out his dirty laundry within about 10 seconds. And it gets me very uncomfortable. But once and I don't mean dirty laundry literally, of course, but when he gets there, I'm like, okay, I just got sucked into this transparent thing here. And I have found that encouragement and transparency really necessitates a lot of business deals. It builds on that connection Gary was talking about. And of course, Rhiannon, we enter pretty much everything with fun. Ron, I would love to hear your expertise. I want to have you talk about Gary's statement, but I know you can't remember everything. Go over here quickly. Chris, we're all friends. So, and by the way, I started writing on encouragement, and man, I did the publisher nightmare. The chapter was going to be way too long, so I had to chop it off, end it, and then I wrote another chapter on encouragement. Out of the 12, there's 2 on encouragement. Ron, I'd love to hear you make a quick comments about what Chris just said and what it does to the human psyche. And also the connection piece of gaining influence. We can have influence to help people get out of their own stuff and get unstuck, but we also can encourage people to change paths, look at life a different way and all that. So I'd just love to hear your quick comments. And I'm watching.
Sure. I love that you brought up Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and the foundation of the pyramid being trust. And I remember one of the big areas of focus was cohesiveness, right? So to have trust, you've got to have cohesiveness. If you want to be cohesive or connected with somebody, number one, you have to be real, because you can't connect with somebody else if you're trying to make your false self be present, right? And number 2, you need likability, right? Like I like you. I can tell you believe in me, that you want the best for me, that you're not going to hold me back. Yeah, let's connect. Let's be a good team.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Rhiannon, I'd love to get each of you to kind of do a summary, and I'll close us out here in about 5 minutes. Any closing thoughts just from the the attempt at this book. I don't want you all to have to figure out why I wrote it, but there was a lot of life in there. If you look at the forward, McLean, my older son, wrote it, the forward, and man, I got so emotional reading it that it could have unintentionally been my autobiography, but he lived a lot of this. So I just would hear I'd just love to hear how you would interpret what we've talked about before we get off.
Yeah, I can give one quick summary. So I had a boss one time
Rhiannon, hold that thought. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rhiannon.
No, you
didn't
go
mean to
ahead,
jump-
Chris. Seriously, you jumped in. You're
Oh, I'm sorry.
transparent.
Yeah. So I had a boss one time that I every Tuesday afternoon at 3:00, he used to come to my office and say, "You're doing a really good job today." And then the next week when he came over at 3:00, I realized he puts a reminder on his calendar to walk over to me and encourage me at 3:00. It seemed manipulative. Yeah. So when I first thought about this book and what it could possibly be about before I read it, I thought, okay, so I wonder if he's trying to be likable to try to manipulate somebody to do something for him. And that's the impure motive. And that's completely different. That's not what this book is about. And that was my big takeaway, my big aha from the book. It's not designed to be likable to manipulate others. It's designed to be likable as a person so that you can influence others in a correct way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Wow, that's good. That's good thoughts. I didn't know you were that deep, actually. Rhiannon? I'm just being transparent.
Can I put my finger on the mute button?
Yeah, go ahead. Make sure that's the only thing you do with it. All right, go ahead, Rhiannon.
Excellent with each other. You know, you're good friends who dig. Okay, but in a summary, okay, so parlaying off of the fun factor, it is truly the voice that we talked about of encouragement. To me, like I said earlier, it's fun with a motive. Part of what you're trying to do is creating a joyful atmosphere for someone to be around. They know that when they leave your presence, there's something different. They need to enjoy being around you. And for more than one reason. It doesn't mean that you can't drop the bomb sometimes and give them some sort of heavy news, or, something devastating happens, or that you can't be, like we talked about, genuine. Sometimes genuine means you're having the worst day ever, but you're genuine about it. You tell them, okay, I'm having a bad day. I had an argument with somebody this morning. Something went astray with business, what have you. But you're the voice of hope as a leader. You're the one that has to wrap it around, because people are looking for leadership. They're looking for someone strong, someone to stand in the gap. They need somebody who literally will hold things together, of course, in the palm of God's hands. But everybody needs someone who's going to be a little stronger than they are. And then, like I said earlier, when you have something that's a joyful experience, it's not just about fun, it's deeper than that. It's the joy that you create, a joyful experience for someone to be around. That collective stuff that we've talked about, and that whole thing, and creating the fun factor, that's where you win. You win the contract, you win that, yeah. But the whole point is that you win somebody's trust.
Yep.
That they will love you because they can trust you. There's something about that trust factor that it keeps, like right now in this relationship I have with this vendor, it's because it goes way back, because there's trust, and we had all the fun together, but there's trust built there on top of everything.
Yeah, I love the way you pitched your personality into your summary there, Rhiannon. And you are likable, and you are different in a good way, not in like a unicorn way.
I like unicorns. Okay, I have one.
Well, I'm not surprised. I don't know. Is he stay outside?
He's a purple horn.
Oh, Gary, bring some sanity if you could, just to summarize it, and I'll go to again.
Yes, yeah. I'm sure you're picking up, Forbes, that all of us are really kind of keying in on that same thing, the trustability, the trust factor that in leadership. When you come from a world that says it's called leadership, not likership. And if that's their attitude, you're either walking towards a wreck or you're walking away from a wreck. Likability is so crucial to your influential, your influence over others, whether it be in a corporate world or a church world or even in your own family, as you bring out so often in your book. And it's not that you seek to be liked, as we were saying just a moment ago, that it's not about, Ron was saying, it's not about being liked for selfish or manipulative reasons. It really is about doing the work, and it takes work to connect with some people. Sometimes it's just automatic. It just happens. But more times than not, a leader has to be the one that does the work to connect with people so that he can help them be aligned with their own purpose, for their own purpose, and then that purpose towards the common goal, the common good of the organization. And sometimes it's not just getting the most out of your employees or the best out of your employees. It's transformational to their lives as well as to the life of the organization.
Well, yeah, we could talk that, man, that transformational stuff, leadership and coaching and training that's transformational is another unbelievable category. And I appreciate you bringing that.
Yeah.
One thing you said, Gary, and I'd like Ron to maybe speak to this to help put the end cap on this. I think we've already lost Chris to a business call, but if you think about something you said, Gary, so introverts and extroverts can coexist. We know the dimensionalization of the four human quadrants of human behavior. That's what makes the world fun, is we're not all alike. But right. Ron, I don't know, I'm not going to force into your summary what Gary was saying, but we can, likability, all of us, we walk in from the edges of our stress behaviors to a safe zone, a place where everybody can play in the sandbox together, no matter where they plot on a psychometric, an assessment. So Ron, I don't know if we want to go too psychometric now, but I'd love for you just to kind of summarize what you've heard, and then I'll thank everybody and we'll be off.
Okay, so to the comment you just made, likability creates a safe space. And within that safe space, kind of the underlying theme in a lot of your book was caring about others, right? It wasn't like Chris's boss, right, who would say, hey, good job at 3 o'clock on Tuesdays, because that was manipulative. It was, I see a lot of good in you. I see how your gifts are being applied in this space. And so with the likability safe space, and then a clear investment in the other person's success, that creates the kind of cohesiveness that is so important to successful teams and organizations. So I don't know if I answered what your question was there.
Yeah, I really appreciate how you said it as well. That's what's so unique about these book launches. We've had just so many, and some people I haven't even known very well have been on, and I just hope everybody that's listening, just in the closing here, what I did this time, is it's kind of like getting a new puppy. I'm having to feed it every week. I guess I feed the puppy every morning. But with the podcast, what I'm doing is, it's not to be an interview podcast, but what I'm trying to do is have organic material that supports the book. It's outside of even the scope of the book. And so you can find Likability Podcast anywhere you're listening. And I'm waiting right now for the notice that it's going to be on Pandora. It is already on 7 or 8 platforms. So nice. Wherever you're listening to music or podcasts, you can find Likability. There's 13 episodes up. One went up this morning. Thanks, everybody. You are wonderful. I forgot how much I loved all of you and seeing all of you. So thanks for supporting this project. Okay.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Take care, guys.